I request participants to please mute your mics. A very good morning to one and all present here, and those who are connected to us through various channels from different parts of the country. I, Mayur Verma, on the behalf of CCS National Institute of Agriculture Marketing Jaipur, welcome you all to the webinar series by national facilitators of CCS NIAM Jaipur on agriculture marketing in COVID-19 period. CCS NIAM Jaipur being a premier institute established by Government of India to serve various agriculture related aspects such as training, research, consultancy and education in agriculture marketing, fulfilling its mandate by dissemination of information and knowledge in relation to agriculture marketing during tough time like COVID-19. Now, before I proceed further, I would like to request all participants to please keep yourself on mute unless you want to talk. We have kept separate time for question answer, hence request you to let the speaker present and finish. You can write your question in the chat box and also we will take it up with the speaker. Participants are also requested to provide the details including name, email, phone, organization, designation in the chat box. Providing these details is necessary for further communication. Now I would like to introduce the eminent speaker of today webinar, that is Dr. B. Ganesh Kumar from ICAR, National Academy of Agriculture Research Management. He has published 50 research papers in refereed journals besides 125 other publications. He was 2 times recipient of ICAR award. He underwent advanced training in social science policy research in ICARDA Syria. Now I would like to invite eminent speaker, that is Dr. B. Ganesh Kumar, to please start the session. Please sir, start the session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the nice introduction. And good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Ganesh Kumar and I work at ICR NAM Hyderabad. So I'm very happy to speak with you for the next 1.5 hours or so on this very important topic of interest to all of us, I believe. That is fisheries marketing in the COVID period. Innovations and good practices during this time. Before I proceed, very specifically on the status of fisheries marketing in the COVID period or even the prospects in the post-COVID scenario, I would like to brief about in short the fisheries sector, a very promising sector. As you all know, it's one of the sunrise sector. Our country is the second largest fish producer in the world. The total production of about 13.7 million tons in the year 2018-19, of which about 65% is from inland sector. What we understand currently is the large amount of fish production comes from inland sector. Among the total fish production, about 9 to 10% we are exporting, and the rest is domestically marketed. And from the export revenue itself, we get around close to 40,000 crore annually. It's a highly export revenue earning sector, you all know. For this very reason, the export market has been receiving maximum attention from Government of India through Marine Products Export Development Authority located at Cochin, whereas the domestic marketing is not receiving its due care because it is all in the private hands. And because of this reason, it is not efficient and not modern even. It's mostly in the hands of private. Very few influence or regulation or monitoring or facilitation is there from the government. I'm not able to. If you see the top 5 fisheries states in our country, the number 1 is Andhra Pradesh, followed by West Bengal, Gujarat, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. They are the major maritime states. Among these 5, Andhra Pradesh is number 1 in the inland fish production, whereas Gujarat is number 1 in the marine fish production. And as I told you in the beginning, if you see our fish production by source, we get from 2 sources, that is from marine sources as well as from inland sources, that is freshwater sources. In the last 60, 70 years or so, the contribution from inland sector is increasing, and it is about to grow further. And the trend also tells the same. The source from inland fish production is increasing at an increasing rate. You can see the pink dotted lines, and the contribution from marine sector is stagnating. You know, all of you might be knowing the obvious reasons of unsustainable fishing practices in the Indian marine waters. Basically, our export markets are USA, European Union countries, and Japan, and few amount of fish is also regularly sourced to Southeast Asia and China particularly. And our export products are not much diversified. Mostly we export frozen shrimps. We export mainly frozen shrimps, and then the other forms of marine products are very few, like squid, cuttlefish, and other chilled fishes. And I told you also, our export revenue is increasing. I think if anyone know about the recent statistics, we are close to 40,000 crores from export of these marine products. And the export market also goes through these kind of normal procedures in the normal time. So this is, you are seeing a picture of a standard export processing unit where shrimp is being washed in the beginning, and then grading is done, mechanical grading, then peeling and packing in the aluminum boxes is being stored in the deep freezer in the beginning. Then you are seeing a crate coming out from the deep freezing unit ready for shipment. And grading also happens manually. Mostly the women workers who are delicate in handling the marine products, they are involved in manual grading process. Mainly, we export the shrimp in the form of headless, veined, deveined, and even whole shrimp. These are the formats in which we export. And you are seeing another form of export shrimp. That is, this process is called blanching. All the broken shrimps during handling gets blanched, and then it also goes to certain group of nations where there is a demand for this blanched shrimp. And finally, it goes through metal detector, and then you are seeing a pack of frozen shrimp before moving to the cold storage. And you are seeing in the cold storage, usually these gets stored, and there is a team which regularly watches the international price movements. When the price advantage is very favorable for our country, we release the shipment. This is in normal scenario. I will tell about what is happening in the export sector in the post-COVID situation. And with respect to domestic fish marketing, I told you 90% of our fish production is marketed inside our country, which is not at all taken care by any of the major players. It is completely in the private hands, and then it is highly unregulated. We all know the physical facilities and infrastructure in all our fish markets. It is far from satisfactory as per even FAO statements. We also know that the moment there is the fish market, I would like to tell you, when there is any problem in our normal day-to-day life, we normally connote these bad things to the fish. If there is any secret among individuals, we say there is something fishy. If there is a noise in a hall where there is no order, there is chaos, we normally say it is like fish market. So it conveys the status of fish markets. This is one of the highly neglected markets in our whole of agricultural market scenario. For other commodities, we have a lot of infrastructure and support mechanism, regulation, but in fish markets, it is nobody's baby. And the other problems with fish marketing, also we know that it's a highly perishable commodity, and the commodity is very bulky. And fish, we say as a single commodity, but it is not single. There are thousands of species, so it has a high heterogeneity in terms of fish species, and the storage and transportation cost is always high. And there is no guarantee of quality also. There is no quality assaying system at all in this commodity. And other problems also we know. Fish is being produced from various production locations. Broadly, fish comes from marine sources and inland sources, but among inland system, we have a lot of water bodies. We get fish from ponds, we get fish from canals, we get fish from rivers, we get fish from big lakes, we get fish from reservoirs. we get fish from a structure called Beel. That's a big open water body in the eastern part of our country. So we have difficulty in assembling the fish from too many production sites. So aggregation problem is a big challenge even before COVID. I'm not telling presently the problem is accentuated now, but there is already a problem. And as we know, there are too many varieties, and then demand pattern also varies. It is not the demand pattern is not very common. Different people in our country prefer different fish species, and there are spatial and temporal variations in market arrivals also accordingly. There is no information on fish price. For other agricultural commodity, we have a price display system, an AgMarkNet, where the prices of several agricultural commodities are periodically collected and then displayed, stored. But then in fish, there is no mechanism so far to convey the fish prices. And always there is restriction in fish trading. It is not a free trade, especially in the activity of auctioning. It is an exclusive job of a fisherman community. No other people can enter. So it's a kind of a monopoly. So there is restricted entry. And so I would like to stress upon the domestic market is crucial for further growth. See, right now, we all know because of the COVID situation, export markets are hesitant to buy products from India. So there is a stagnation in exportable commodities. And as always, I say in many forums that the domestic market is going to be the crucial factor for sustaining this sector, because India is a highly populous country. Our fish consuming population is growing ever. And on the other side, people's awareness, income level, and the nutritive value of fish, it's all known to the Indian consuming public. So they want fish. It's only the question of making the fish available to them. So basically, creation of hygienic domestic markets, creation of societies of fishermen. We have societies in few states, but then we need fishermen societies across countries so that they have collective bargaining power in auctioning or in the disposal of fish activity. Then we also need a lot of infrastructures, small size storage facilities, ice factories. Everything is required at the source point, at the landing center itself, or at the production point itself. Of course, we need to transport, because I told you fish demand across country is highly variable. It is different from state to state. Different people consume different types of fish in the country. For example, the fish being landed in the coast of Gujarat, it travels to Maharashtra and it travels all the way to Delhi market also. Some quantities go even up to Howrah market. So that's the kind of situation. Whereas the local consumption of fish in Gujarat is very less because of the habits of the consuming public. Similarly, if you see the southern states, the fish regularly gets transported from west coast to east coast and east coast to west coast. So that also I will tell in later stages. We have a hope to develop this domestic fish marketing in the last 15 years or so, I would say, after the creation of National Fisheries Development Board located at Hyderabad. They are primarily mandated to various types of. I'm hearing it disturbance. Yeah, sorry for interruption. So the National Fisheries Development Board is mainly mandated to increase the fish production through various production systems. But it was for the first time in the history of country, it was also given the task of developing domestic marketing. So they are mandated to create new domestic markets, fish markets. It is mandated to modernize the existing fish markets. It is mandated to expand the size of the fish markets. Besides, it also promotes opening the fish retail outlets. So for the first time, a template is being made by National Fisheries Development Board, and it is supporting the interested state governments, fisheries departments to increase the efficiency of the fish markets, the domestic scenario. Before moving further, I would like to say, in general, the marketing channel of the marine fish products follows these kind of channels. We all know fishermen from coast, they bring the fish to the shore, and in the shore auction happens. So auctioneer is the next player who handles the fish. Then the commission agents of wholesalers who are operating in the nearer towns or fish markets or cities, they just come and participate in the auction. Commission agent is the representative of wholesalers then he purchases and brings it to the wholesalers, then wholesalers further distributes to the retailers, street vendors, hotels, and even fish retail outlets. Finally, it reaches consumer. This is more or less a standard marketing channel for the marine fish. Similarly, for the freshwater fish, inland fishes, the fish starts from the fish ponds or the river sites or from the reservoir sites. They are also called fishermen. And if the fish is cultured in the inland water, they are called aquaculturists, fish producers, you can say. So fish starts from them, then it either goes to trader or it goes to fisher cooperatives. See, fisher cooperatives are one of the institutional mechanism which are prevalent in the country wherever big water bodies are there, like in big reservoirs, the dams where the some of the aquaculture activity happens, reservoir fisheries happens, the villages surrounding those dams. So they also have a fish cooperatives. Plus, in the eastern part of our country, where beels, oxbow lakes, there are big water bodies are there. So the villagers surrounding those area, they also have fish cooperatives. So from fishermen, it goes to trader, fisher cooperatives, then it goes to wholesaler, then wholesaler transports or further disposes to bulk buyers like hotels and also retailers and mobile traders. And finally, it reaches consumers. This is the fish landing in normal times. Many of us might have witnessed also such kind of scenario. See, fish land in two types of structures. One is fishing harbors. India has more than 1,000 medium and small size fishing harbors. Of course, major fishing harbors are there in the regular ports, major container ports. Like in the country has about 12 major ports, container ports, adjacent to those container ports in Chennai, Cochin, Mumbai, Visakhapatnam. So nearer to those fishing harbors, nearer to those kind of container harbors, we have fishing harbors. But besides, we have thousands of the medium and small size fishing harbors. So here you are seeing a fishing harbor in Cochin, where the Persian liner. This is a big trawler called the Persian liner. It is called. So you are seeing a landing of, and of course, fish also lands in fish landing centers. We call it beach landing centers. Trawlers bring the fish. You are seeing trawlers in the background. So the fish comes to the trawler near shore, but then from the trawlers, using smaller boats, the fish reaches the landing centers where there is no concrete facility. It is not a pakka harbor. It is only a fish landing center where the trawlers come closer to the coast, and then from there it reaches the landing centers. And this is a fish auctioning in normal times. We all know from in the seashores, in the marine sector, fish usually lands in our country on two occasions. One, mostly in the very early morning from the trawlers, and in the afternoon hours, the smaller boats, manual and motorized boats, reaches the shore. So here, as soon as I told you, as soon as the fisherman brings it to the shore, auctioning happens, and here you are seeing an auctioning hall near Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu. And here you are seeing the next players, fish handlers, that is the commission agents of wholesalers. After participating in auction and purchase, they are just packing in the vehicles. So here you are seeing commission agents. And before we go further, we should also know in the fish marketing, there are several intermediaries who are very, very important stakeholders. We must understand what they do. It passes through several intermediaries from landing center to the consumers. The key intermediaries, I'm just highlighting only key intermediaries here. First is auctioneer, second is wholesaler, retailer, and then vendor. Auctioneers are many. They generally operate in the landing centers. And most of the auctioneers in our country are men. But there are also fish landing centers where exclusive women auctioneers are there. You are seeing a picture of women auctioneers doing their business in Mumbai coast. And of course, in the left top, you are seeing a picture of an auctioneer in a coastal city called Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu. Next, I told you fish collector. He purchased in the auction, then he purchased and then packing. Then wholesaler. They operate in big markets which are normally located in city or town in the country. Fish wholesale markets can be in a closed building, and it is also in the open market, like in vegetable markets in some of the cities and towns in our country. The left top, you are seeing a very famous market located in Dadar, Mumbai. It is a Crawford market. and below you are seeing an open fish market in Hyderabad, that is in Hyderabad. Similarly, retailers, the only difference is that there less volume of fish is transacted here. You are seeing two different retail markets. Mostly, they are cramped places. You must have seen in the wholesale market also, people cramp for spaces, and that is going to be a challenge in the post-COVID scenario, because as we all know, this is contagion, and then it spreads through the contacts, and there is no proper space in our fish markets. So you can imagine the gravity of the situation. We have to totally change our lifestyle, behavior, and practices, which is going to be very huge in the post-COVID scenario. And finally, we have vendors who purchases from wholesalers. Also, they directly participate in the auction in the landing centers they purchase. And I think vendors are from both the gender. You are seeing the vendor in the left top in Hyderabad city. So they are mostly men, but in places like Chennai, women vendors are very, very common. So they directly participate in the beach landing center, and they all purchase for at least 2 to 3 hours of fish sale, and they get dispersed in various locations of the city. And on the inland side, there is an interesting marketing system of Indian major crops, that is Rohu, Katla, Mrigal, which is already happening in our country. I told you in the very beginning that as far as inland fish production is concerned, with respect to freshwater fish production, Andhra Pradesh is number one. They produce fish for the whole country, and they produce a very huge quantity of fishes, and not for their consumption. They transport it to the one of the biggest fish market in Asia, number one fish market in our country, Howrah market. They on a regular basis they send the fishes through the regular transport lorries, trucks, uh, and it goes 90% of this products goes to Howrah market, and it further gets distributed to the eastern country. Some of the fish go even to the state of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So that's the kind of marketing system they do. There also you will see a lot of the players, market intermediaries, and there's so many players are having the stakeholding. Here in this slide, you are seeing the first point, that is the fish being harvested in the pond site in the West Godavari, East Godavari, and Krishna districts of Andhra Pradesh, where about 80,000 hectares of aquaculture fish production is happening with Rohu and Katla only. And in the right bottom, you are seeing a picture of vehicles being lined up in the Guwahati Shillong highway, where you are seeing a truck of Andhra Pradesh registration. After loading the maximum stock in the Howrah market, this truck is proceeding towards beyond Assam, Meghalaya. They go even up to the Tripura and the Manipur. We have seen this kind of supply chain happening in the normal scenario. And the marketing channel is very, very, very specific here also, a highly standardized marketing channel. Fish starts from the fish farmer, that is from the aquaculture pond. Then you will see the blue line, the left side of the channel. It goes to the trader. Trader is nothing but the transporter, basically. Then it enters Howrah market, and I told you it goes to Assam, Tripura, even Bihar. It goes to the consumer. Very few quantity goes to the local market, to the nearer states, adjacent states of southern states mostly, including Maharashtra. About 5%, 5 to 10% of the fish produced from these three districts of Andhra Pradesh to the consumers. It goes to the consumers, and you are seeing the operation. So this is how harvesting happens. The laborers are involved. Mostly, some of the migrant laborers are also there in this activity. So harvesting happens in those ponds. The ponds are all rectangular shape of various sizes. It ranges from 5 hectares to even 100 hectares. 100 hectares. They're all big ponds in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So harvesting happens after 10 months of culture. Then it is brought to the transport unit. They are the traders. So it comes here, and then it is from the pond. The fish comes in the plastic crates. Then it gets offloaded Then you are seeing two sets of packing units. One is the boxes, packing boxes. On the left side, you are seeing thermocol boxes. On the right side, you see plastic crates. See, from the fish pond, fish comes in the plastic crates. Then after getting unloaded, it is once again neatly packed in the thermocol boxes by keeping ice. See, lots of ice are being used in this process, and then fish is coming to the packing unit. And these are the packing material being used in packing those fishes, packing the trucks even. And you are able to see the packs of thermocol boxes in the truck, which is being padded from outside with the bigger thermocol sheets. And then once it is covered, lots of the rice bran, paddy husk, and even sawdust are being used as an additional insulation material in the normal container goods truck. And then the truck is ready for a very long transport. The truck is now fit for traveling without losing the quality of fish for about even 7 to 8 days. Each truck carries roughly about 10 tons. Each box carries about 40 kilo fish. About 250 boxes are packed in the trucks, and then about 10 tons of fish goes to the markets in a very, very long distance. Such a kind of transportation solution is being innovated, practiced, standardized by the farmers, Andhra fish farmers themselves. I tell you, on an average daily, about 180 to 200 trucks carrying 10 tons of fish are leaving during the harvesting season. That's the kind of fish being produced, fish being transported from Andhra Pradesh. Now, in the COVID scenario, the business has gone down like anything. Then I will tell one more dimension before going to the COVID situation. That is about market infrastructure. The moment we think of anything to improve the fish marketing system, or to think of increasing the efficiency of the marketing system, unless otherwise we know the different kind of market infrastructure problems existing there and the requirements of those market infrastructures, the fish marketing would be still inefficient. That's my feeling. So we have various types of market infrastructures, beginning with the landing centers. I told you landing centers are two types. One is fishing harbor, second is fish landing centers, then wholesale markets, retail outlets. Here you are seeing a fishing harbor just coming to the shore and then offloading the fishes. I think this is Thuthukudi, Tamil Nadu fishing harbor. This is the Cochin fishing harbor at around 9 o'clock in the morning. So the operation starts from around 4 o'clock and then it goes up to 11 o'clock in the morning. So this is a picture of about 9 o'clock, 9 to 10. I think it's a Cochin fishing harbor. Then this is a fish landing center of Mumbai in the afternoon hours. I told you in the beginning, normally fish landing centers are operate twice in a day, mostly by the small boats, manual boats, and then the motorized boats, which operate in the distance of 1 to 5 kilometers from the shore. And fish market, wholesale fish market you are seeing, wholesale fish market, open market, retail markets. Here also you are seeing, this is a retail market of Chennai, and this is a retail market of Nellore, Andhra Pradesh, where you can see the infrastructure situation up there. People, there is no sufficient space. People have to sit very close. They are doing their business. And this is another semi-open kind of fish market in Cochin, Vipin Island. So there also the fish market is on the roadside. And finally, we have fish retail outlets also, mostly in the southern parts of the country, operated by private players, and in few states, even the fishermen cooperatives or fisheries development corporations are also operating. Here you are seeing few stalls of Hyderabad, Vijayawada, Nellore, and here you are seeing Tamil Nadu Fisheries Development Corporation managed fish retail outlet, which is a little hygienic than the regular fish retail outlets in the country. Now, coming to the COVID situation. So we are all heavily disturbed in the last 60 days or so after hearing the pandemic. It's a contagion. I think almost all of us, I would say, are seeing such kind of situation in our lifetime. Almost all sections of the people are affected. But now here, this is one of the, already it is one of the neglected sector, I told you. And there are not much of an information about the activities happening other than some credible data on the fish landing in the marine sector. Even there is not much of an accurate information about the fish being coming from the inland sources. The only source of information provided is the State Fisheries Department. Still, there are a lot of challenges, and there is virtually no numbers of how many laborers are working in this sector. There is no census information. It is estimated that around close to 1.5 to 2 lakhs people may be involved in this sector in various the smaller portfolio of this whole fisheries sector. And as a result of this, the impact is very huge and pervasive. I think as soon as the lockdown is announced, the fishing activity is suspended across the shores. Fishing activity, fish culture activity is heavily affected in the inland system also. So it's a very, very painful situation. And added to that, you all might be knowing, usually there is a fishing ban. There is an annual fishing ban in our country for the marine trawler fishing. I think many of you may be knowing, in marine waters, fish comes from 3 types of vehicles. One from long distance trawlers, another from motorized boats in 5-kilometer distance, and then the near shore the operators like manual boat operators who operate around 1 to 2 kilometer distance. During this ban season, fishing ban season, the marine trawlers are starved for about almost 2 months. Regular, this is a regular feature. We have in different timings. In East Coast, it started from 15 April. It usually starts from 15 April. It goes up to June 15. In West Coast, it starts after that. 15 June, it goes up to another 2 months. And this also added to that. When was our lockdown started? It started around 22, third week of March. Even before the fishing ban, the regular fishing ban started, lockdown has happened. Trawlers were doing the business. I told you, trawlers go for multi-day fishing. I think you all may be knowing. The manual boat operators and the motorized boat operators operate on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, daily basis. Whereas the trawlers which go for deep sea fishing, it is inside the sea for about 7 to even 10 days nowadays. So by the time the trawlers who are inside the deep sea, when they return to the shore on, let us say, 22nd March, and there was a Janata curfew, and then from 24th March, the whole country was locked down. When they came and then saw the shore, there was virtually no activity. There was nobody there in the Indian coast. So they were not knowing, they could not monetize their catch. It is reported even they have just thrown back the catch inside the sea. There was a lot of spoilage. It was a huge loss. So it also added to that. COVID has stopped the activity. Marine fishing ban also has added to the further the supply scenario. As a result of this lockdown and social distancing norms in the society, there is low demand plus low supply. So I told you there is virtually stoppage of production, so there is low supply. Usually in low supply situation, prices have to increase. But here we are facing a very different situation, very abnormal situation, because of the fear psychosis, because of the restriction and movement of the people to go to the market. There is low demand. Prices, in spite of all these supply demand balance, price have gone a little bit 20 to 25% high in some other areas we observe. But even then, there is a low demand because of low supply. This is a post-COVID situation in terms of supply and demand both together. fish purchase and sales, it has plummeted because there is nothing is there in the shore. There is nothing is there in the pond. There is nothing is there in the market. It is already closed. So there is no supply. And whatever fish is available with the traders, there are no consumers who are coming forward to buy. This is a kind of situation. So there is a low demand also. And it has affected the livelihood of all stakeholders. I am repeating here, marine sector has so many stakeholders: boat owners, auctioneers, craft and gear mechanics, net vendors, ice factory owners, the share fishers who go to the multi-day trawlers. That is, in the trawlers, 7 to 8 people go. Owner sits mostly in the shore. Only the laborers go inside. Whatever the catch comes back to the shore, it is shared among the owner and all the laborers who go inside the trawler. So that's the kind of stakeholder. So all have lost their livelihood. Similarly, in inland, aquaculturists, feed manufacturers, hatchery owners, other input suppliers, they are also ice factory owners, transporters and laborers. They are also affected. But of course, there are some positives during the COVID situation. So in the very beginning, I told, nowadays the fish is coming in more numbers from inland waters. The fish coming from marine waters are going down. There is unsustainable problem. There are depletion of resources in the marine waters because of overfishing activity, because of this default holiday or lockdown period. There is conservation of marine ecosystem because there is very less of anthropogenic activity by the human. So that has added to the, definitely must have added to the better conservation of marine resources. The results, the clear results of all those conservation will come in due course. And of course, negatives we all know, livelihood is lost, and the fish business is stopped completely, affecting all the stakeholders in the whole of chain. I would say what has happened in every subsector, marine subsector first. I told you, because of the sudden cessation of fishing activity, fish marketing activity, it has forced the fishermen to dump their catch back into the sea. It is reported that in Maharashtra, fishing community in Raigad area, they are forced to catch their 15-day catch. There is because there is no market. All the markets are closed. All the ice factories are closed. Fishing harbors are closed. There is no operation. There is no transport facility to take the fish to the markets away from the nearer markets. ICR, one of our ICR institutions located at Cochin, Central Institute of Fisheries Technology, estimated that the crisis on marine sector alone, from the fishermen alone, is to the tune of 224 crore daily, excluding the loss in the post-harvest process, exports, processing, and other players after the fish comes to the shore. It is only up to the loss estimated up to the shore. Of course, once the activities resume, there may be two kinds of scenario. One is slowly the fishing activity would resume, but even then, it is only possible first by the manual and manual and motorized boat operators who go up to 1 to 5 kilometer distance, who come daily, because whatever they bring, it is mainly catered to the needs of the nearer and local markets, whereas there will be challenge in the deep sea trawling activity, not only because of the huge quantity it regularly brings to the shore. It also needs continuous inputs. Inputs are mainly in the form of two. One is it needs continuous fuel. That is, of course, is possible, can be supplied by the government. But human labor, there are several laborers who are even migrant. They are part of the fishing crew. But now we all know, we are seeing in the last few days or so, lots of laborers, migrant laborers, or the laborers are migrating back to their home state. The backward migration is happening, and we do not know when they will come back to their the older activity, even in fishing sector. So it's going to be a huge impact in future, because they are involved in loading, unloading, icing, packing, so many operations they do, and they are all, out migrating. They are back migrating to their state, and whatever fish captured can cater to the local needs only. It will be still difficult to transport to the longer distances. States like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Maharashtra, Karnataka, southern states and Maharashtra can consume the fish which is coming from the sea in the near future. Whereas states like Gujarat usually transports to the long distances because the local consumption is very less. And moreover, Gujarat brings in a lot of export-oriented marine products, which are now stagnated. No importing countries are buying now because all our buyers are USA, European Union countries, and even Japan. Right now, China is purchasing some. China is the only country who is buying some amount of fish. I heard from the Mangalore coast, from Karnataka coast, some in the COVID situation, even during the COVID situation, some of the fish is going to the China, but other players have stopped. Airways are stopped. China is lifting the fish through ship currently. So that's the kind of situation in marine sector. Coming to the inland sector, I told you on an average daily 200 trucks leave from Andhra Pradesh, but now only 35 to 40 trucks are only operating during this point of time. And because of the prices have gone up, because there is a low supply, the prices have slightly gone up in the Howrah market, 20 to 25% price have gone up. And immediately after the lockdown is released, possibly there is going to be glut in the domestic market because right now the fishes which are usually harvested in 10 months time are still in the pond for another 2 months. So there is additional input cost for keeping the fishes alive in the fish pond. So all fishes are now growing. It is still in the pond. They can be held up in the pond for another 15 days or 1 month. Beyond that, they have to harvest. And we are also coming to a close of lifting the lockdown and resuming all the economic activity. So once that happens, there will be glut in the domestic market because all those fishes presently in the pond will come to the market. There will be glut. So price might crash. We do not know what will be the situation. That's the kind of scenario which is waiting to be seen. And of course, during this extended period of culture, the input cost has gone high, definitely. So we do not know how these prices the cost of production will affect the final price. Right now, there is a dynamics of fixing the final fish price in the market based on the cost of production. Now cost of production has gone high because of the COVID situation. That will definitely reflect on the fish also. We have to wait and see. And the brackish water aquaculture is a very specific sector. Whatever being produced, mainly shrimp, they are meant for export market. Now, because of the slowdown, economic slowdown, in all export, major export destinations, they have stopped buying. They have stopped buying. So there is an expectation. There are estimates, anticipation from the fishing community that there is going to be 40% reduction in the catch immediately after COVID situation, and a 20 to 40% drop also in the prices during the year. The drop in the catch from the marine waters as well as the culture from the inland sources. There is going to be collectively it is going to be a drop, and fish also the price also will drop. That's the kind of because there is no buyers. The international people are not going to buy no sooner from India. So we have to see alternate strategy. In that regard, I am also thinking there is definitely an opportunity to tap the domestic market for the cultured shrimp, because we all know, see, India itself is a big consuming country where we have a strong middle income population. And the urban society, the aware, highly aware consumers who know the nutritive value of the fish. They are there in our country itself. Instead of depending on the export markets always, there is a time. The time has come now to exploit the domestic market. There is a price advantage also in the domestic market. We all know, even before the lockdown period, the shrimp, the cultured shrimp in our Indian markets ranges from 350 to even 450 rupees per kilo, 350 rupees to 450 rupees per kilo. Now I think that is actually export rejection shrimp, which we are seeing in our markets. Now all the export quality, export standard products are lying in the cold storage. I think efforts have to be made to bring it to the domestic market. People are ready to buy. I always say in many forums, and I believe strongly that people want to consume fish. It is only because of the lack of availability and even people lack of availability and access. Affordability is there. consumers have a lot of affordability to buy, but then there is lack of availability and lack of access. So we need to make effort to bring the fish to the consumers, and there is a very high potential for the export quality shrimps to the domestic market. And of course, in this regard, we have to think of developing a very innovative marketing efforts. We have to take innovative marketing efforts step uh, by placing the fish at the neighborhoods. See, consumers will still hesitate. Already, their movements are restricted. During the initial phase of lockdown period, lockdown phase one, lockdown phase two, at many places, consumers were restricted. Public was restricted to move to the market beyond 3 kilometers, 1 to 3 kilometer distance from their residence. Now, slowly, we are opening up. People started moving with the precautions. But even now, once even everything becomes normal, people will still hesitate to go to the fish market at the present point of time to buy fish. So definitely there is a scope to develop a system where fish is delivered uh, at the doorstep of the consumers, neighborhood. Already some efforts have been started by some of the public agency. I understand the KVK of one of our ICR institutes, once again at Kochi, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, CMFRI, have started mobile vending of fish. They started at the beginning, at the first week, about 500 kilo fish daily in the Cochin city only. Now they have increased their sales volume to double. They are daily, on a daily basis, they are selling 1,000 kilo fish, KVK. So there is a positive lesson from this kind of effort that this can be multiplied. There is another things which are already happening in our country. There are several startups which have come in the country. They they do online delivery of the meat products, including seafood products in our country. Already there are some very promising startups are there. You must have heard a very famous Licious online delivery, meat delivery startup. Then there are so many others have come up. There are very promising startups like Japfresh, which is operating in Bangalore, Tender Cuts, which are operating in Hyderabad and Chennai, and Fresh to Home. There is another person, another group. They are operating once again in Bangalore and Gurgaon, Delhi. So they are all already into the business, mainly taking meat and chicken meat and mutton and all, and they are also taking seafood to some extent. But now, during this COVID situation, they have increased their sales volume of marine products. More such startups, more such online platforms should come, and it is going to come. I am hoping. I hope strongly that more such online platforms are going to come. And you're also seeing a picture of Meangle, the fourth picture, Meangle. This is the mobile app, mobile online, the online platform with the help of mobile app, uh, launched by state department. Tamil Nadu Fisheries Development Corporation have started this Meangle app in Chennai city. So they are daily operating about, I think they are catering, they are catering to 1 lakh customers. I just saw they are catering to 1 lakh customers, and then they are going to increase the volume of the business through this kind of online platforms. These are all the future for this sector. And of course, it cannot come with precautions. It has to go with a lot of hygienic practices. It has to go with a lot of the caution. In this regard, Indian Council of Agriculture Research issued advisories on the COVID-19 situations. Mainly, our institute at Cochin, CAFT, Central Institute of Fisheries Technology, Cochin, and the Central Inland Fisheries Research Institute, Barakpur, which mainly does research on inland fisheries. They have come out with the mitigation advisories for the harvest and post-harvest sector of Indian fisheries. They have given do's and don'ts for the safety of workers for a different at a different stages, different stages of fish being handled. FAO of United Nations has also recommended, they have accepted and recommended the ICR advisories for the fisheries sector as a voluntary guidelines under the Asia Regional Initiative for the whole global community. So they have appreciated Indian efforts, they have appreciated ICR efforts, they have accepted, and they are recommending for the whole of country under this initiative. And some of the specific advisories are given. You can see in the websites of ICR these the advices from the fisheries institute is given. Those are very normal kind of advisories which we have been following right now during this period. Now we have to create awareness among all the stakeholders to follow this thing. Washing hands, and then keeping known people in the crew, and then avoiding the people with any respiratory symptoms, and then avoiding the fish to be kept in the open. All those things. Minimum contact, disinfection of the places, and the cough etiquettes. You must have known that we should just use the elbow, or use the face mask, and then we should avoid touching our hands with this on the face and the eyes, nose, and all, and then avoid crowding the faces. You see how challenging it is going to be. Already, the stakeholders in the fisheries sectors are very low in literacy, very low in awareness. They are the marginalized people among the whole farming community. I always say they are away from the normal. Fishing village is always located away from the regular public. Villages are called villages in our country where farmers and all other people live, whereas the village where fishermen lives are called fishing villages. There also we have some kind of the untouchability, I would say. So they are the marginalized people, and with their kind of awareness, with their kind of literacy, with their kind of capacity, there is a tall order to maintain hygiene, to revive the sector, in fact, to revive the fish marketing activity. It is going to be a huge kind of effort. I think you and me, all of us, have the responsibility to think and contribute to the revival of the fish marketing. Use mask and all those things are there. Specifically to the fish markets, I am noting the advisories which are from those ICR guidelines. One is we have to go for restricting the timing of sale of fish in fish markets. We have to maintain social distance. We have to do the screening, thermal screening while entering into the market. The traders while entering into the non-contact screening. Ensure hand hygiene. We have to teach the workers not to touch the eyes, nose, and mouth, and then respiratory hygiene. Those who are having this kind of problem should not go there, or should protect the cough being the sneeze outside. These are the specific advisories for the fish market. There are many other advisories, and we all know the government, before the announcement of the fourth phase of lockdown, it has come out with the stimulus package for the whole economy under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. For fisheries also, there are some specific mention. There was a specific allocation. There was a specific indication for certain activity. 20,000 crores under Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana is allocated, of which 11,000 crores is for the culture activity, that's the production activity, marine, inland, aquaculture systems with various kind of the production techniques. And 9,000 crores specifically has been earmarked for the markets, fishing harbor, cold chain, market development. So on these topics, on this area, 9,000 crores are. It's a significant amount, and I am hoping that good sense prevail among the people who are going to use this money to develop the market, modernize the market, bring in efficiency. Of course, fishermen are likely to be given assistance to modernize their vessels with several safety navigation systems, and we have to increase the capacity of the vessels to handle and store fish on board. Presently, in the trawlers, people carry the very dilapidated ice boxes. Sometimes even the unused refrigerators are taken inside as a box. So we need to definitely increase the capacity of the fishing boats to store the fishes on board on the boat itself before it reaches the shore. Because some of the trawlers, I told you, it is a multi-day fishing. Until 7 days, the fish has to retain its quality. So it is going to be given some more money. I would like to conclude with the two remarks that COVID-19, I would say, has given opportunity. This crisis has given an opportunity to the fisheries sector. The fisheries sector, fish market, or all the activities are happening in a very, very unhygienic manner. Time has come to make the fish marketing as a neat and clean activity. I wish the fish marketing should be neat and clean. COVID has given opportunity. Yes, we are compelled to be clean, and we are going to upgrade the market infrastructure. This is an opportunity, and we will also sensitize the fish handlers to follow hygienic practices. hygienic practices are far from satisfactory right now. So the situation has compelled all the stakeholders to improve upon from the existing situation. And and it is also time to go for the for promoting the innovative market solutions. I already mentioned that we have to go for mobile fish vending, the marketing or the sale of fish in a stationary conventional fish market is not only going to be the major player in future. We have to be mobile. We have to come out with solutions to take the fish to the neighborhoods. I think some of you must have seen also that some states during the first and second phase lockdown, they were taking perishables, vegetables and fruits. The revenue officials, local administration officials, they were taking with the help of horticulture departments, they were taking the fruits and vegetables to the consumers in the neighborhoods. They go on a daily basis to the street, to street after street. So they go. And the same kind of practice we need to follow in case of fish. It is already happening in a corner of a country, which should happen across country. This is my wish. And we should also encourage a lot of startups to go for online, mobile-based marine products delivery system. So these are going to be future. And this must come so that we'll bring in a lot of efficiency in the post-COVID situation, not only in the immediate future, in the very long future. So with this, I end up my formal talk. I look forward to the organizers and all the participants to pose some questions and to clarify. Whatever I know, I'll be able to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a valuable talk and entire presentation. Now I request the participants to please raise your question. Participant can switch on their mics and ask the question.
Yes. Yes. Am I audible?
Yeah, I am Dr. V.K. Jairaj Vendra Rao. Can I pose a question to Ganesh Kumar, sir?
Yes, sir. Sure,
Yes, sir.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Ganesh, see, I was also seeing some of these issues in the horticulture sector, but now that it's a reality, the middlemen were nowhere. So I think this post-COVID marketing strategy, I think we should really use this as an opportunity to eliminate middlemen and come out with a really innovative marketing strategy like what you have told. See, when we can do all these things, so now the middlemen should find it very difficult to come back and then again put up their show. What do you feel, sir?
I beg to differ, sir. As an economist, I feel all the players in a chain should be benefited. Our tagline should be nobody should exploit others. All should coexist. Producers should exist. Consumers should exist. Consumers should get at minimum price. Producers should be able to sell at a maximum price. And the middlemen also should be able to do their job. If in some of the channels middlemen are disappearing, there won't be anybody to cater to that. They are also very important. But I agree that if you shorten, if you eliminate middlemen, the producer share of final consumer price is going to increase. But right now we are in a very, very different situation. We need a lot of people to do many suspended activities to happen. We still need, at least for the time being, we need still many people. But of course, in the long run, when we improve in efficiency, when we come out with the success of innovative mechanisms, that's what I tell you. The same trader who are already sitting in the fish market and selling the fish should be made mobile. They should be given assistance. They should be given vehicles. They should be given smaller tri-wheelers, rickshaws. The traders should go, instead of sitting in the market, they should move to the neighborhood and then sell. So that consumers will get, traders also will get money, not sitting in the market, but moving around in the market, but moving around in the city. So that is what I am visualizing. But I agree that if we develop all those kind of efficient system, middlemen will get reduced, and then fishermen are going to get.
We are not against middlemen. It is only to shorten the supply chain. We have to shorten the supply chain, and even Niyaman has come out with book that linking farmers directly with markets, and this is an edited book. Okay, Chandrasekhar, myself, and all are there. But our aim in this particular post-COVID situation is to reduce the supply chain. That's all we are asking.
Definite.
Sir,
Thank you,
this
sir.
is
Can I have one question?
Yes,
sir.
sir.
One question from my side.
Yes, sir,
B.S.
sure.
Reddy speaking.
Hello.
Sir, this
Yes,
is
sir, I am
B.S.
hearing.
Reddy speaking. Hello.
Yes, sir, Dr. Reddy.
Sir, what you spelled out after lockdown is over or withdrawn, in the fourth phase, the fish is going to arrive market and there will be glut.
Yes,
So
sir. That is one of the possible.
Yes, sir. To avoid distress sale, can you suggest something? Our government is thinking in some ways to avoid distress sale or to avoid the glut in the market. Immediately after this withdrawn, you are saying that the fish will become glut in the market.
Yes.
So during that time, the distress sale is going to happen. That again going to create problem. What you are going to suggest in this regard?
Yes, sir. It's a very, in fact, I value this question. It's a very difficult question to guess a very right kind of answer. But with my understanding, with my knowledge, with my experience, what I visualize or what I feel, what I wish that once the fish comes to the market, it should be released. It should be coming to the market for actual sale in a staggered manner for some time. But the challenge again is it's a highly perishable product. We need storage capacity nearer to the market. Already fish in the inland system, in the culture system, they are beyond 10 months time. They are just they are growing for more than 10 months. They have grown up to 12 months. So they cannot hold the fish beyond those things because input cost is going high. If they are going to harvest it, so those fish are going to come to the market. That's why I told you there's going to be glut. But at the same time, we need to store at some point and release it to the market in a staggered manner. We all of us should advise wherever possible to not to see that price gets crashed, and it is going to be a big challenge. I accept.
Now, Dr. Ganesh, in the light of this, see, some subsidized cold chains also the government should initiate like a package, like already they have given so many package. Some subsidized cold chain also should avoid glut.
It is going to be there. Already, our honorable finance minister has indicated that the states will be free to use the allocations for the welfare of fishermen. They have earmarked some money for welfare of fishermen, through which we are already providing subsidies in the form of diesel and some of the safety equipments, fishing gears. There are some subsidies given. I think the state governments are going to come out specifically in these lines to use those money. Of course, a committee constituted by a study team constituted in ICR CFT Cochin has also recommended to think of waiving the loan, deferring the loan payments, and extending subsidies wherever possible over and above the existing subsidy. It is going, the cash should be there in the hands of the fishermen. That is going to give stimulus. That's the idea, but then individual states have to come out with the specific strategies, sir. Thank you.
Well, am I audible, sir? This is Somasis from CCS Niampur, MBA Agribusiness, sir. Am I audible, sir?
I am hearing.
Sir, I have been trained from SIBA, Chennai, under Dr. Akshay Panigrahi, sir, and Dr. Amba Shankar, sir. So I have a great experience, and I have immense pleasure that the southern institutes like CIFT and SIBA are catering this service selflessly to the farmers and the entrepreneurs. Whereas in West Bengal, there is no such institutes who are serving. My question, sir, is very simple. Why the venomized shrimp price has been fluctuated since 3 years? And the second question is, why there is no such infrastructure for the shrimp larval feed manufacturing in India? That's what we have to import 100% from the foreign nations. And sorry for my third question is, sir, this is I'm so sorry that why there is no such organized market for sea bass. Let us calculate first.
Sea bass.
That's three
Sea bass?
questions. Sea bass.
Sea bass.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Sea bass.
Okay. Whatever questions you have posed are all persisting questions for long. Not only during this COVID time. This has been our gray area. This is our lacuna. This is our lack of capacity. With respect to the first question, you said why Venami price is fluctuating specifically in the last 3 years. It is mainly because of our production is at a very, very sustained level. We are producing a certain quantity of Venami annually. But then our competitors are able to produce at a relatively lesser cost, mainly Thailand, Vietnam, even China to some extent. So they are our competing countries in Venami, and then they are producing relatively with a better technology at a less cost of production. Because of the little disadvantage in the price situation, it is fluctuating. There may be some other underlying factors also on the quality issues, which I am not very aware, which I am not very sure now. That could be also possible. Then we are trying to stabilize, and then there is also an effort to come back to culture of our own species. Our own species. Instead of Vanami, we are thinking of Indicus. We are thinking of even still our black tiger shrimp is having the premium price, but Indicus species also we must try. We need to diversify so that the customer base is kept intact. So that may be our strategy. That is with respect to the first question. The second question you asked is about the capacity of our hatcheries to have our own shrimp. Right now, this is an opportunity.
No, sir.
Right now we are,
No, sir. My second question was regarding the shrimp feed, shrimp larval feed manufacturing. Why there is no such shrimp larval feed manufacturing facilities? We have to import
There is a
100% from.
I can only, I understand. I can only say that there is a lot of scope. See, right now, you know, the aquaculture feed industry, when it came, when the aquaculture started some 2.5 decades back, there was only one company who was doing almost 95% of business in our country. That is CP Feeds. CP Feeds from Thailand. But now, in the last 20 years plus, there are Indian players who have emerged. Avanti Feeds and so many people have come into the business they are doing. This is for the culture. But then the one which you are telling is a very, very specialized sector. We need to start. We need to start. I think I feel this is the right time with the kind of stimulus being given to the fishery sector and with the focus of the government on the blue revolution. I think there is an opportunity for us to start the feed specifically for the shrimp larvae, and we need to increase the capacity. The third one,
Organized market for sea bass, sir. It is why there is no organized market for sea bass.
see, I tell you here, we don't have any special markets for any fish species. See, shrimps are going for the export. All other fin fishes, including brackish water fishes, culture fishes, sea bass, and whatever it is, every other species comes to the regular fish markets. There is a long way to go to specialize the fish markets into a smaller niche markets. Right now, there is I'm not seeing any immediate future the scope specifically for the sea bass. There may be few players who may be sourcing the sea bass for the particular markets, but then country as a whole, we don't have any specialized markets for any particular fish species. If you go to the fish market, you will find all types of fishes, small fish to big fish, freshwater fish to marine fish. That's the scenario. Thank you.
Ganesh Kumar, can I have one question? Are
Yes,
you
sir.
able to hear? Hello?
Yes, sir, I am here. Sir.
I'm Ravichandran from NAM.
Yes, welcome, sir.
Thank you for an excellent presentation, excellent overview on COVID-19, post-COVID-19 situation. I would like to ask you one thing, whether these fish farmers were also compensated, say like any other farmer, 6,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees, some money was given to them also?
No.
Why were they not considered as farmers? You are telling them fish farmers. Why were they not considered?
There are still many aspects in which the fish farmers are not treated on par with the agricultural farmers. And there you cannot, in our fishery sector, you cannot classify all those people who bring the fish to the shore, to the land, as the fish farmers, sir. Some of the fish farmers, there are group of people who bring the fish from marine. They are covered under different types of the social security protection. The fishermen are excluded in that because they are covered under different kinds of welfare mechanisms already. So they say that they cannot be treated on par with the crop farmers. On the inland side, there are once again two kinds of farmers. One who are culturing the fish for their business, for the domestic markets. The other kind of fishermen who go to the open water bodies and they also capture the fish. The third segment only can be considered as a farmer for the 6,000 subsidy. But right now, they are not covered. I think we need to sensitize, we need to, I mean,
You need to inform the policymakers that they should
sure,
be
yes,
also given.
yes, we have to do, sir. That is a great
Okay,
area.
okay.
Thank you so much for pointing out, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ganesh Kumar.
Okay, sir. One more question in chat box. How private entities will play a vital role in domestic fish marketing?
Yes, that's what I have been always telling since my involvement in the domestic fish marketing reforms in our country as a policy economist from the ICR system. See, lots and lots of retail outlets have to come. Fish retail outlets have to come. There are schemes. There are specific schemes which are supported by National Fisheries Development Board to start the fish retail outlets. That is stationary fish retail outlets. There are two types of prototypes available. I think one with an estimate of 5 lakh, another with an estimate of 10 lakh. If I'm wrong, anybody else also may correct. There are two kinds of the package from the National Fisheries Development Board with a significant amount of subsidy. So that is one way. Any private people can apply for those kind of subsidy through state fisheries departments. And then number two, I mentioned in my the slides also that there is a huge opportunity to come to this business as a startup. As a startup, you can start your own online delivery platform for which you need very less kind of infrastructure. There is no need of investment in the brick and mortar business model. You don't need any physical structure even. You can simply do facilitation. You can arrange the sourcing of fish from the producers. You can arrange the source of fish from the seashore, from the fishermen, and you can deliver to the consumers. Just like Zomato, Swiggy, and all those food delivery apps, there are startups which are coming in a significant number in our country. I mentioned a few. There are many more. If you can Google, you can see many more also. And though they are presently concentrating on the meat products, mutton, chicken, and all those meat products they are concentrating. Very few, in a very small quantity, they are also handling marine products. There is a huge scope for the private players to come into this kind of business model so that fish marketing will see the second stage, will see the next stage in our country. This is my hope. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, participants, if any more questions, you can contact directly to our speaker, either through mail or contact number.
Dr. Ganesh Kumar?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Shivaraman from NAM. I would like to ask a question. It's a very
You're
interesting presentation. So you mentioned that for vegetables, it's coming directly to our doorsteps. Now, after COVID-19, government is making this arrangement in almost all the states and
Yes.
places. And vegetable, it's easy that you have to hire a truck and bring it to the place. You have to employ some people to do it. Do we have capacity like we can do the same thing for fishes, because we need refrigerator containers, all these things? Okay, whether the government
Definitely.
can do it, yeah.
Thank you for pointing out. The moment I heard that kind of mobile vending of horticultural commodities in television, in the papers, suddenly it occurred in my mind at that moment itself. Definitely it is possible. Only thing we need, as you say, some minor additional equipments like refrigerator. Already such kind of mobile fish vending units are tried, operated in a very, very small scale by the state departments. See, Telangana Fisheries Department is operating through their fishermen cooperatives, such kind of mobile fish vending units. I know Tamil Nadu Fisheries Development Corporation is doing. Kerala Matsya Fed, they are also doing, but they are all at a very, very smaller scale. I think the time has come for us to upscale it. You know, in the delivery of horticultural commodities in the post-COVID situation, They have even hired the local cargo truck operators, minivans, the Piaggio vehicles, Tata AS vehicles. Using those kind of smaller vehicles, see the traders themselves were coming after getting the token, after getting the permission from the horticulture department. The same way, fisheries department have come into this picture. They have to liaise with the traders who are out of business now. They should arrange the vehicles, the smaller vehicles, with the addition of the refrigerator, as you said, to maintain the quality, because it is highly perishable than even the vegetables. So with these kind of things, this can be definitely pilot tested, and I believe there is going to be huge demand. Consumers will definitely buy, and then that can be upscaled later on by the other people also. Thank you for pointing out that observation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more question from participants?
यस सर, मैंने चैट बॉक्स में जो क्वेश्चन लिखा है उसका आंसर दें.
Chat.
Yes.
यस सर, जो हिंदी में लिखा है क्वेश्चन उसका.
Okay, you asked what may be the best strategic point to quick distribution of overstock after lockdown. Is it the question?
Hello. Is this your
Hello?
question?
Yeah. Is it the question? I'm asking the person who has posed the question. What may be the best strategic point to quick distribution of overstock after lockdown? Yeah, if he is listening, I can just orally speak also. I think once the transport activity resumes, we will see some normalization of market activities. But slowly, if more arrivals start coming to the market, there would be glut. And before that situation happens, we should try to increase the capacity to hold those fishes nearer to the market with some cold storage facility, newly created or expanded cold storage facilities near the market. That will be the strategy, so that you can hold the fish for some more time, so that in a staggered manner you can release to the fish market. Presently, this is what is occurring to me. We have to stagger. We cannot let all the excess stock to enter into the fish market. Besides, there should be simultaneous efforts to take the fish to the neighborhoods with as much as possible, by roping in the regular traders, by roping in the interested the entrepreneurs, even the department itself, corporation itself. They should try.
Yes,
So,
yes, sir. To avoid that, can you speak a little bit on the processing part, so that the glut will not occur, only the fresh fish consumption, some mode of processing effort to avoid glut?
sir, generally, more than us, the aquaculture farmers, those who are culturing the fish, they are already watching the market. So they are more smarter than even people like us who are advising, sitting here. So they may be definitely observing the market, and every big farmer or the association of farmers have agents in the major fish markets. Through them, they get the message to track the price movements. Accordingly, they will harvest and then supply to the market. They are going to have their own strategy. But then if it goes beyond, what I was telling is, if it goes beyond our control, then we must have a capacity to hold the fish nearer to the market with having additional cold storage facility for some time. I think in due course that will get normalized. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. One more question in chat box.
Yes.
जो मछली पालन करने वालों को नुकसान हुआ है, उस नुकसान से बाहर आने में कितना टाइम लग सकता है, थोड़ा इस बारे में बताइए.
Everything depends on the normalization of transport activity. Everything depends on the availability or the normalization of activities by the middlemen. Those who regularly go to the fish ponds, to the small scale fishermen, it all depends on them. I believe, see, those who are fishing from the open water bodies, they can wait till they find the logistics to come to their doorstep to take the fish. Until then, the fish is going to be in the natural environment, be it lake, river, reservoir, and so on. The challenge is there only for the big fish, the fish producers who are doing the culturing practice in the pond aquaculture system. For the small scale fishermen, they themselves can harvest, they can sell to the nearer market with their own capacity. But if they get more fish from their own the water sources, they have to wait for some more time for normalization of activity. Transportation is very important. And all the people who are operating before lockdown has to come back to the business. And all those people, manpower who are involved in handling the fish also have to come back to the business. Once that happens, automatically the small scale fishermen would be able to integrate into the overall fish market system in the country. This is my feeling.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions from participants?
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for such a valuable and inspiring talk. I have a question. As you have mentioned, there are some fish cooperative society that are wholly responsible for taking the fishes from fish farmers. Why there is lack of government intervention in this scenario? Might be
it's a
there
good
is a
que-
possibility.
Yeah. Thank you so much for raising this question. I also have the same question. See, I am no different. See, there is lack of initiative from the fishermen to come together and form a cooperative. Some states are proactive. States like Kerala, states like Andhra Pradesh, states like Karnataka, even states like Tamil Nadu, they are all very proactive in forming the cooperatives for their own welfare, for their own benefits through fish marketing. But there is also a national federation for fishermen cooperatives. Fish Corp is called Fish Corp, I think. So there is a national federation of the state fisheries cooperatives. So see, cooperatives is a voluntary movement. See, you all know the success of even Amul in our country, which markets milk. Everybody knows the success of Amul, but even then, this is very popular in, let us say, 8 to 9 states only. 1/3 of the country only the cooperatives. Amul, dairy cooperatives are popular. Fishermen cooperatives are still far behind. And it is a voluntary in nature. Government can facilitate, it cannot force. So that is a limitation, but still our responsibility is still there. I fully agree with you. We have to still demonstrate the benefits of the fishermen cooperatives in improving the welfare of the fishermen, in increasing the producer share in the final consumer price of the fish. Definitely that is a very effective institutional mechanism through which fishermen will get a better price from the final fish price, better share from the final fish price. But then I am also optimistic like you, and I am also having the what you can say, the apprehension or anger like you. So why it is not happening? It should happen, and we, the public representatives, have the foremost responsibility to motivate the people, to collective the fishermen, to make more and more of very viable and active fishermen cooperatives. If that happens, definitely, as you say, fishermen will be benefited. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Good
you, sir.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes,
Just
good
I
afternoon.
forgot. Yeah, my concern is about the KCC. Recently, not so long, the government introduced the fisher farmers in the KCC at the same interest, which is that 7% interest,
7.
which include 2% the government subvention also. So is it practically in the implementation to these farmers? Like the government in the election manifesto also said that the loan will be provided at 0% interest rate up to 1 lakh rupees for 1 to 5 years. So this is not in implement right now. But like the government said, at 7% interest rate for short-term farmer loan, this will not provide the assistance for long term. It is only for the short term also.
Short term.
So
It is for the short term. Kisan credit card is given for the short term credit needs. Yes, actually, I agree. I just value your concern, and I am also equally concerned like you. In fact, we have several policies in place, but then when it comes to the question of implementation, there is a weakness in our system. So we are all responsible, and I think as if we are all answerable to the farmers. We must take this kind of solutions to the benefit of the farmers. But at least it is good that they are going to extend to the fish farmers also, I hope.
Yes.
But right now, it might look a populist measure, but then it is there for very long. See,
Yeah, but
through
it's a
Kisan,
good thing that
it's
they
a
took
good thing
initiative. Yeah, this
because
they took.
we all know, yes, madam, we all know that farmers are exploited by the non-banking financial institutions like friends, relatives, and all those people who are having
Yeah.
contract with the farmers. They generally extend the credit because the transaction time to get the credit is much quicker in those people. So they take advantage and then they exploit the farmers. But here, government mechanism, institutional mechanism will have certain procedures, and usually it takes long time. There should be effort from the public agencies to shorten the time span to extend the loan.
Yes.
But I very well
So,
agree with you.
yeah.
There is a concern. I also feel and hope that it should be effective for the fish farmers
Yes.
also. It's only a hope. And thank you for pointing out this issue.
So my second concern is, as you have heard about the ASSOCHAM, that fishery sector expected to touch rupees 1.5 lakh crore by 2020. So if we look at the current scenario, is it possible to touch that target?
I think already we are more than that. I think already we are more than that in terms of contribution from the sector itself to the national GDP. It is possible because now we are looking at a very optimistic scenario in a very difficult time. But I feel, I hope that we are a very resilient country. I'm very optimistic. We come out of any kind of crisis much better than any other developed nations, madam. So I strongly hope that our people also will bounce back. We have a lot of energy, and this sector is always promising. Why? Because everybody knows the demand is growing. The sector is always growing in a double-digit growth annually, and then the awareness about the fish consumption is increasing every day. These are the bottom lines, and based on this, people like ASSOCHAM or any other the agency might have a very positive projections. And I am also positive, and let us see that the sector brings a lot of money to the economy, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very well
Hello,
said.
sir.
Yeah, hello.
Sir, my question is, I want to add a point to our presentation about the processing of fish culture, sir. Because the people who are culturing fish, they can go for a processing like a fish pickle or dry fish by tying up with a self-help group. If any ICAR institute are going with these ideas to create awareness among the farmers so that they can go for processing. And another question was about the potential of the domestic market. As you have pointed out, sir, that the fish farmers who have cultivated their fisheries according to the export standards, if they sell their fishes into a domestic market, either it is a profitable for the fisherman because the exports will offer a high prices than the domestic market. Can you give your point over this, sir?
Definitely, both the points are very valid. These are already the potential scope in our system, in our country, which we have not exploited at all. And I am reminding here, and I am thankful for your reminding to me also. Certainly, the people who are women members of our society, fisherman community, or from any other rest of the community also, there is always a great potential to prepare value-added products, ready to cook, ready to eat, and other items like, as you said, fish pickle. So many other things can be prepared, can be done. These are happening also. As a few of the very successful case studies, these are happening in mostly southern states. There are some, these are essentially promoted by the public funded institutions, mainly from fisheries colleges of our country, as well as ICR institutes. ICR CAFT Cochin, ICR CMFRI through their KVKs. So all those institutions are helping at their own level in promoting the self-help group to go for the value-added fish products making, dry fish making. Dry fish is another sector where there is a huge scope for the women members through self-help group. These are happening, but these are all happening at a very small scale, very small level in a localized area. There should be efforts to upscale it to a very, very large scale. We have infrastructure, we have institutional setup, one of the finest in the world, I would say. There are more than 700 plus KVKs, 700, close to 720 KVKs, I think we have in this country, in which about 100 KVKs, close to 100 KVKs are having expertise in the fisheries sector. We have subject matter specialists in fisheries science. They can very well can be involved in this kind of activity to promote self-help groups in value-added fish products making. There is a valid, it's a valid point, and there is a great scope. I agree with you. And the second one you said, I already mentioned also. Yes, there is definitely a scope for diverting the export destination meant the marine products for the domestic market. Why we should depend on the export markets always? See, our Honorable Prime Minister says we should be self-sufficient. It is everybody's dream. It is every ordinary citizen's dream to be self-sufficient. Why we should be dependent on others? We have great potential. Great potential with respect to fishery sector is consumers. We have crores of consumers. We are all, see, the fish consuming public is increasing very much. There are variable estimates ranging from 30% to 70% fish consuming population. Different statistics are there. But we all understand that the fish consuming public is increasing, and the fish consuming people are having middle income to high income people. And that is the engine of growth. They are going to be the engine of growth to diversify the shrimp products from export market to the domestic market. I saw about a week back in Hyderabad, in my own housing society, that there is a food delivery app who have come with the coordination of some of the shrimp growing farmers of Andhra Pradesh to Hyderabad to my society. They came and they were selling the de-weaned shrimp. You know de-weaned shrimp. You may be knowing whole shrimp, headless shrimp, de-weaned shrimp, weaned shrimp. These are all different forms of the exported items. De-weaned, headless shrimp. That is only the flesh portion. They have come and then they were selling. I was hearing they were pricing for 800 rupees per kilo. 800 rupees per kilo, and people were buying, because if you buy the whole shrimp at a rate of 400 rupees per kilo, and there is nothing wrong to buy an export quality fish, which is devoid of the shell and the vein for 800 rupees per kilo. People were buying, and then it indicates that there is a scope. So I very well agree that for some time in future, there are many more people who are going to enter into domestic market. Those who are already doing the export business of marine products, shrimp products. So thank you so much for your suggestion, madam.
Hello.
Thank you for enlightening us, sir.
हेलो सर.
Yes.
तो सुन पा रहे हैं सर?
Hello. Yeah.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि अभी लॉकडाउन के चलते जो मछली पालन प्रभावित हुआ है और जिससे भारत सरकार को कोई प्रॉफिट नहीं हुआ और लोगों को भी बेरोजगारी का सामना करना पड़ रहा है. बेरोजगारी के प्रति सरकार क्या कदम उठा रही है और आप थोड़ा इसके बारे में बताएं.
Please, admin, please can you translate in English and tell me? My understanding is not complete. Abhishek? Dr.
No, I'm going to translate for you. Sir, what the person is asking is, sir, okay, during the lockdown, lot of livelihoods are lost, lot of employment opportunities are lost, and you as a fishery lecture, what you have given today, what is your understanding of how to revive the livelihoods in the fishery sector? That's what he's asking.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very valid question. It's a very bothering question for all of us. See, it is estimated that about around 1.5 lakhs to 2 lakhs people as laborers involved in this sector. And right now, what we are witnessing is that about 50% people will go back to their states. There is very less chance that they may come back. And there are also efforts by the respective state governments from where these laborers are originated, to ensure livelihood through involving them in the MG Narega scheme. So there may be some opportunity for them.
Yes.
There may be some solace for them in the short run by involving them in the MG Narega. But then the impact on these laborers are going to be a little severe, and we will have to observe their resumption of their livelihood. Right now, they are in distress because there is no activity. The employers are not able to pay the wages, and then they are leaving. And it will be the responsibility of the employers or the respective state governments, where the lot of fish is being landed or lot of fish is being cultured, to bring back those laborers. The responsibility is with the employers and the government, I would say. The laborers are in distress, and there are efforts to involve them in the MG Narega work. Even there was a suggestion by some of the experts group in working in fisheries sector, interested in fisheries sector, to suggest some of the activity which are right now carried out by the women, like fish drying, net mending, and these activities to be brought under MG Narega. Right now, these activities are not covered under MG Narega. So these are some of the efforts government is thinking, government is trying to make. But right now, situation is grim, and I share the agony of you with respect to the plight of migrant laborers. Thank you so much once again for pointing out this issue. It's a very, very bothering issue for all of us.
No, sir. One last thing, sir. In the light of this livelihood security, see, the sector may revive, but if you want the livelihoods to revive, they should have alternate skill sets. Like, for example, in the post-COVID, they should go with more of mobile application and using the mobile, then online sales and service. So even the small laborers simply, other than catching fish, should also be trained in the ICT and mobile, so that they will have an alternate livelihood base and shift their skill sets. See, once when the skill sets are shifted, so their livelihood base is going to be broader, and all the 5 capitals can be inculcated, and they will have a better sustainable livelihood. What do you feel, sir?
Yeah. This is always a kind of pertinent suggestion. At any point of time, we need to train people. Basically, we are all the people who deals with knowledge, and then this knowledge we are trying to transfer to the stakeholders, to the beneficiaries, let's say farmers and all the people. See, any crisis also gives us opportunity, and the strategy should be multi-pronged, as you say. One side we need to create infrastructure, the other side we need to create a livelihood opportunities, avenues. And in India or anywhere in the world, it is very difficult to motivate or convert the people from one profession to other profession in a short period of time. It's a very time-consuming process, because the unskilled people, they always say that they don't have any other skill. It is very difficult for them to learn new skills. So certainly, while thinking of providing alternate livelihood opportunity, training, of course, is a crucial component, and it's a long-term process. It's a medium-term to long-term strategy, I would say. But yes, we need to train. We need to make them ready for alternative occupations wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one last question, sir. Sir, what should be the initiatives should be taken for the weak multidisciplinary approaches and weak marketing and extension network of fishing? Because of nowadays, our fishermen are taking even aquaculture farmers are facing a lot of problem in COVID-19 situation. So what are some measures that should be initially taking to extend the marketing?
For aquaculture farmers specifically, are you asking?
Including majorly fishing farmers.
On what we should do? Can you tell the question again?
Yes, yes, sir. I'm no showing concerned about what should be the instinct measure that of fishing farmers should taken for increasing their the weak marketing which is existing today because of COVID-19. How
Which
they
market?
can work
Which marketing? Which marketing, madam?
fish marketing, sir.
Which? Okay. Yeah. See, that's what I got your point. But most of the things I told you already that in case of the marine fishing, once the normalcy returns, there will be slow resumption of activity by the mechanized trawlers. Now we have to wait for the fishing ban season to end in East Coast as well as in West Coast. So once the fishing ban is lifted, the long distance trawler boats will go inside. They will start bringing more and more of the catch. And the condition is they need the same set of the manpower. Now, with the migration of manpower from all the places, there may be some impact in the operation of mechanized trawlers. Of course, the manual and motorized boats are they are regularly catering to the local needs of the fish right now. So that is a fish market situation with respect to marine. With respect to inland freshwater aquaculture, right now it is only 20% of the output which is going to the market, because government said that it is also one of the essential services activity, that is transportation of all the food items including fish, meat, everything is given permission from the second phase of lockdown itself. So only 20% of the freshwater aquaculture products are moving. Rest of the fishes are in the pond itself. It is growing extra for about 2 months time now. Once the situation comes back to normalcy, maybe in another 1 or 2 months, all the fishes will come to the market. Once it comes to the market, we have to regulate the flow into the market with some mechanism. We should have a staggered release of fish to the markets. That is my outlook in the marketing scenario. With respect to the export oriented the shrimp aquaculture sector, we have to open up the domestic market. We have to convince, or already I think they are getting convinced, the aquaculture farmers who are aiming the export business. Now they will slowly take those shrimp. They can hold up to 6 months only at the maximum. Beyond 6 months, they cannot hold. So they have to come to the domestic market with some arrangements, institutional arrangements, with their own arrangements. So this is the market outlook with respect to fish. I am just thinking.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we don't have any queries now.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Then we can winding up the session. Thank you, sir. On behalf of DG CCS Niam Jaipur, want to thank all participants, eminent speaker, and the organizing team for the smooth conduction of webinar. Thank you all and have a good day. Thank you, sir.
So thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much to you, Dr. Abhishek, and I thank profusely on behalf of me as well as on behalf of the ICAR National Academy of Agriculture Research Management for giving me this opportunity to speak to this audience on this very, very important topic at this point of time. I thank once again all the participants who have eagerly participated and posed questions. It was a learning experience for me. Thank you so much to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wish you a good day.